Inventory in Sarasota County has increased almost 20% year over year to right around 3,000 active listings today. The median time to contract has also rose to about 53 days, which is an increase of 112% year over year. Why is this happening, and what does it mean for those of you looking to move to Sarasota here in the near future? The real estate market is shifting here in Sarasota, and you might not expect a real estate agent in Sarasota to say this, but I'm actually happy that it is. I've got 5 reasons why the housing market is slowing down, and make sure to stick to the end of the video where I will give you a bit of insight into what I'm experiencing as a real estate agent here in Sarasota right now with some of my clients who are in the process of purchasing homes here. And honestly, it might surprise you because it definitely is surprising me. For starters, it's hurricanes. Hurricanes have decreased the demand for homes and increased the supply. Essentially, there are fewer people looking for homes, especially in the Sarasota area at this very moment, because of what they have seen and heard on the news. Now, this won't last forever. I've seen this exact same thing happen during Hurricane Irma in 2017, Hurricane Ian in 2022, Idalia in 2023, and now Milton in 2024. Now, yes, Milton was the first time Sarasota got a direct hit with the hurricane, well, at least in my lifetime. I think it's been about 100 years since something like this, but honestly, I felt we had more damage with Hurricane Ian than we did with Milton. Either way, I found that people really have short-term memories when it comes to stuff like this. We'll see a dip in the market for maybe a month or two, and then we're kind of back to basics, back to normal, right before where we were when the storm hit. But I believe that we are doing extremely well, all things considered. The worst damage Sarasota really experienced was the storm surge, and that honestly only affected the barrier islands, like Siesta Key, Lido Key, Venice, and Anna Maria, which all saw like up to 8 feet of storm surge from Hurricane Milton, which was actually less than what they experienced from Hurricane Helene, which was like 100 miles offshore, and it made landfall around 300 miles north in the Big Bend. So that should tell you something. On the mainland though, I really only saw some small shingles pulled off of roofs, the occasional tree that had been uprooted, and mobile homes that had kind of lost parts of their metal gutters, had pulled back. Honestly, that was the thing that surprised me the most. When the hurricane was approaching, I was seriously concerned for the mobile homes and manufactured communities because I wasn't sure if they were going to be left standing when the storm had passed. And when I drove around, I was shocked at how intact they basically all were. That being said, the stress of living through a hurricane can just be too much for a lot of people. The uncertainty of hurricanes really is the worst part. I mean, you hear about them usually about a week or two out, and then all of these spaghetti models start coming out and covering the whole state. You start to think about evacuating, but most of the models say it's heading way north of you, so you don't. Then the storm starts to gain power, and then it's all the way up to a Category 4, which is pretty major. But you still decide to stay because it's still hitting north of you. You might get heavy rain and wind, but the people at the weather station say you won't get more than maybe a Cat 1 force winds. Then at the last minute, the hurricane takes a sharp right turn directly towards you and to your home. Now it's too late to leave. The storm will be here in the next 6 hours and you're stuck. The roads are all full of cars. There's no gas at any stations from Florida to North Carolina because everybody who evacuated used it all. And now really all that you can do is ride out the storm. This is a reality for many people, especially during Hurricane Ian and again Milton in 2024. Now, as a born and raised Florida native, I've always been taught to run from water and hide from wind. I've always believed that there's zero reason for there to be any loss of life from a hurricane in Florida. As long as you can evacuate when told to do so, you should be okay. I've learned that almost all homes in Florida, even those built back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, really were built to withstand this kind of weather. But still, that stress is something a lot of people can't or don't want to go through again. So they've decided to sell their homes. Whether they had storm damage or not, they just decided to throw them up on the market and head somewhere else. Because of this, we've seen an increase in supply of homes here in Sarasota. Now, that's just the first point. The second point is connected to hurricanes as well, though, and that's the insurance. For reference, my home is in the best flood zone you can be in Florida. It's in a non-evacuation zone, and we are about 30 feet in elevation, which in Florida is like being on a mountain, essentially. We haven't experienced any storm damage from any of the storms ever, and yet our insurance still increased. Now, I will still consider ourselves lucky because there are people out there who I know whose insurance has doubled, and now after this triple hit we've had with storms from August to October, I'm sure we're looking at another premium increase here pretty soon. But it's not just the property insurance because of hurricanes. Car insurance is also pretty pricey now. I mean, think about it. Florida has the highest number of elderly drivers, but we also have new drivers. We have tourists who don't know where they're going. We have snowbirds and everything in between. We've got people from all over the country and even all over the world driving on our roads, which is bringing in a new driving style. So accidents are frequent. And because of that, I'm stuck paying around $230 a month for a 2021 mid-sized truck. This is another reason why people are ditching Sarasota altogether. Now, the third reason, and I think this is the biggest reason we are seeing this surge in unsold homes here in Sarasota, is because the market is finally correcting. After almost 3 years of non-stop exponential price increases, in 2024, this was the first year we finally saw some decreases rather than increases. I imagine many sellers are still expecting to get COVID prices on their homes even 4 years later. Maybe they saw their Zillow estimate up in the 600s back in the peak pricing when there was virtually no houses on the market and people were still paying $10,000 to $20,000 over ask. And now they still kind of expect it to be that way now. Now, this can partially be the real estate agent's fault as well. I see so many agents who are scared to lose a potential listing that they will just basically lie and agree with the sellers, telling them that their home is worth way more than it is. All that really does is hurt the homeowner who doesn't really know how to strategically price a home and probably has more emotional value towards the home rather than anything else. If you've ever sold a home, you've probably heard the term stale listing, and it's essentially the last thing you ever want. A stale listing is exactly what it sounds like. When you put your home up for sale, maybe you get a showing or two and then nothing. But then a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and if you don't decrease the price of the home enough to get interest going back in the property again and matching the market demands, a listing will inevitably go stale. I have a perfect example of this. I had clients of mine who I was showing property to east of I-75. We found the perfect home for them. It was a gorgeous pool home with a view of the golf course. I mean, it was everything that they had wanted. The owner was asking $1,050,000 for this house. Mind you, there were no other active listings in the area, and the last comparable home that sold in there was over $1.1 million unfurnished. Now, the home we were looking at was furnished. Now, my clients noticed that the home had been sitting on the market for over 120 days, which is a long time regardless. And they had some concerns. They said, "Zach, you told us this home was a good value. Why has it been sitting on the market for so long if it's a good value? What's wrong with it?" Of course, I knew what was wrong with it. I went into the listing history and I saw that the home was originally priced at $1.3 million, $250,000 over what they were asking for it now. And they hadn't had a price drop in over 2 months. If you price your house too high, people won't even take the time to look at it because they will automatically assume that the person wouldn't even consider an offer under, heck, $1.2 million. But by the time my clients and I had toured it, the house was $250,000 cheaper. And I still had to convince them to at least check the house out and give it a chance. They were certain that there was something wrong with it. And you know what? They ended up passing on the house anyways. So the moral of the story is that the real estate market, specifically here in Sarasota, is coming back to reality quicker than the homeowners can realize. And because there are more homes on the market now than ever in the past 4, almost 5 years, buyers now have a lot more to choose from and the options to explore. They don't need to waste their time with an unmotivated and uncooperative seller. And that is reason number 3. Reason number 4 is the uncertainty of the future, especially with the looming election that we just had. People felt that the winner of this election directly correlated with their plans to purchase a home within the next 4 years. That was a major point of concern for many of the people I was talking to. Many people I've spoke with in this past year were waiting for the results of the election to make any decision regarding purchasing a home, whether they could afford it now or not. And from what I'm hearing from these people now, 2025 is going to be a very hot time to buy. Listen, love it or hate it, when Trump is in office, people tend to have a little bit more money in their pockets. People feel like the interest rates will fall and his plan to support new construction housing is only going to increase inventory and decrease prices. During Trump's 2024 campaign, he called for slashing of regulations and permit requirements, which can increase housing costs for home buyers, as experts say that the regulatory costs trickle down to the prices home buyers have to face. Jim Tobin, who is the president and CEO of the National Association of Home Builders, said about 24% of the cost of a single-family home and about 41% of the cost of a multifamily home is directly attributed to the regulatory costs at the local, state, and federal level. So just attacking that right there might see some major price cuts here in the near future. And the final reason is the sheer amount of new construction happening here in Sarasota. Whether it's Lakewood Ranch, Welland Park, Parrish, Northport, downtown Sky Ranch, there are new construction communities popping up all over Sarasota at the rate that I've never seen before. Thanks to COVID, we had an almost standstill when it came to building. Labor and material shortages pushed everything to a halt. But with COVID in our rearview mirrors now, thankfully we are seeing new buildings with an average new construction time frame of about 6 to 8 months, where it was 16 to 20 months back in 2021. I've been seeing this a lot now here too. People will ask me, Zach, why should I try and negotiate with a homeowner on a 10 to 20-year-old house when I could just go to a new construction builder who's offering similar prices for a similar home, newer, with incentives and amenities? People are almost not even bothering with a resale in certain price points and markets unless there really is a specific and sought after neighborhood. Okay, so hearing all of that, you probably think that buying the perfect home in Sarasota is going to be a walk in the park, right? Well, think again, because although we're back in kind of like that 2019 inventory numbers, that doesn't mean that there is a ton of the perfect home for you. I'm currently working with 4 different buyers, all who are ready to buy a home within the next 3 months, each with totally different criteria and budgets ranging from around $450,000 all the way up to that $1.3 million mark. And do you know what they have all said to me? I'm shocked at how difficult it is to find the right house for us. You've got to remember that everybody has different wants and needs, different lifestyles, and different budgets. One of my clients has school-aged kids, and they want to be in the Riverview School District so she can send her daughter there. Other than that, they need a 4-bedroom home and a pool, and would prefer to be no more than 20 minutes from Siesta Key Beach. And they have a budget of up to $1.3 million. How many homes do you think they have to choose from? Remember, as of right now, there's over 3,000 active listings. So out of those 3,000 active listings, what do you think? Maybe 100, maybe 80 homes fit their budget, their criteria? Try 17. There are 17 homes for sale in Sarasota in their price range that are 4 bedrooms with a private pool and between 20 to 30 minutes to the beach. That same theme goes for 2 of my 3 other clients as well. There's almost always something that is constricting the search, whether it's the need to be in a certain school district, or the budget, or even just wanting an updated home. People on the outside think that there's just tons and tons of perfect homes, but once you start looking, you see that number very quickly becomes tighter and tighter. So with all of that being said, if you're considering making the move to Sarasota and you want no BS advice and info on the best areas in Sarasota to live, click the first link in the description below to schedule a call with me, or you can always shoot me a text or a phone call. My phone number will also be down below in the description. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.